kazi na watu ambao wana uzeni, watu wazima miaka 60 kuweza kustaafu. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, tunajua kuwa watoto wetu wengi wametoka katika university, vyuo vikuu, watoto wetu wamesomea taasisi tofauti. Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini nafasi za kazi mpaka sasa zimekuwa haba. Mheshimiwa Spika, na tukiangalia mpaka sasa, hata wakati ule wa corona, watu wengi sana walifutwa kazi na nafasi za kazi zikawa haba, kwa sababu watu wengi pia walifunga biashara zao. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, kuweza kuwaingiza watoto wetu katika nafasi za kazi, lazima na sisi tutoe nafasi. Ukisha hudumu katika serikali miaka 60, ukiwa umefikia miaka 60, hiyo ni dhahiri kuwa na wewe pia uweze kupisha watu wengine waweze kuchukua nafasi yako. Mheshimiwa Spika, ila tu pia ningependa kuongezea kuwa na hata wakistaafu katika miaka 60, Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini pia wanaweza kuangaliwa hawa ambao wanastaafu, kwa sababu tunapata wafanyakazi wengi wa serikali wamestaafu na mpaka sasa marupurupu yao, pesa zao, ile manini yao ambao wanapewa baada ya kustaafu, Mheshimiwa Spika, wengi wanalia hawajapata. Mheshimiwa Spika, na wanaishi katika maisha duni. Kwa mfano, tuna watu ambao wamestaafu katika shirika la Kenya Railways, juzi wamenituma marupurupu yao mpaka sasa hawapati. Mheshimiwa Spika, tuweze kuangalia pia na hao watu wazima ambao wanastaafu, licha kuwa wanataka kutoa nafasi kwa watoto wetu, lakini nao pia ni Wakenya, waweze kuangaliwa vizuri. Mheshimiwa Spika, tuhakikishe kuwa marupurupu ya wafanyakazi ambao wanastaafu wanapewa kwa wakati, ndio na wao pia waweze kuishi. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, pia nimeona amezungumzia watu ambao wanafanya kazi kwa kujishikilia. Nimekuwa juzi Mombasa katika taasisi ya maji, Mheshimiwa Spika, nikagundua kuwa yule mkurugenzi mkuu ambaye anahusika pale ameshikilia miaka 2.5. Mheshimiwa Spika, hajaweza kuandikwa rasmi, na hii inatamausha sana. Mheshimiwa Spika, watu wanashikilia nafasi za kazi kwa muda mrefu bila kuandikwa katika nafasi zile. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni dhahiri kuwa hata kuna walimu ambao wamekuwa wakisomesha kwa interns, wakisomesha kwa kujitolelea kwa muda mrefu sana. Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna mpaka madaktari ambao wanajitolelea kutibu wagonjwa kwa kujishikilizia. Mheshimiwa Spika, sisi tunataka watu hawa ikifika ule muda wa kuweza kuandikwa kazi waweze kuandikwa kazi, isiweze kupita muda ule ambao umewekwa katika sheria. Mheshimiwa Spika, na hata hivi tukitetea wafanyikazi, tukitafuta nafasi za kazi kwa vijana wetu, Mheshimiwa Spika, tuangalie pia na makampuni ambayo yameweka watoto wetu kazi. Kwa mfano, juzi kumekuwa na mgomo Mombasa, Mheshimiwa Spika, na ilitamausha sana. Mgomo huu ulikuwa wa kampuni ya EPZ, Mheshimiwa Spika, ambao nilijaribu kuingilia katikati, Mheshimiwa Spika. Lakini ningependa pia kamati ya leba waweze kuangalia watoto wetu wanaajiriwa ile itwaje, kushikilia contract mwezi mmoja na mtu amekaa pale miaka 10. Hii haingii akilini. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni dhulma kwa wafanyikazi wa Kenya, ni dhulma kwa watoto wetu, na tuangalie hata makampuni haya na ile kama kamati ya leba waweze kufuatilia, waangalie kwa nini watoto wanaandikwa mwezi mmoja. EPZ kazi ngumu kuanzia asubuhi saa 12 mpaka saa 4 ya usiku. Ikimalizika mwezi anaambiwa rudi tena uandikishe upya. Amekaa pale miaka 10. Mheshimiwa Spika, tuweze kuangalia pia hali za wafanyikazi katika taifa hili. Mheshimiwa Spika, ndio tunataka watoto wetu waweze kupata ajira, tunatoka taifa hili liweze kujengeka kwa ubora, lakini pia tuangalie wafanyikazi wakienda kazini wawe ni watu ambao watakuwa na furaha. Mheshimiwa Spika, waweze kuruhusiwa pia kujiunga na mashirika yale ambayo yameruhusiwa katika katiba kama unions, kwa sababu unaona wengine wakiingia wanafutwa kazi. Mheshimiwa Spika, na ni watoto wetu sisi. Tusipozungumza katika jumba hili, na mimi najua nitaweza kuwafikia kamati ya leba ya jumba hili, niweze kupeleka na mimi petition yangu kutoka Mombasa kwa wafanyikazi wa EPZ, waweze kuwaita hawa managers na directors wa EPZ, tujue kwa nini watoto wetu wanafanya kazi ngumu. Mshahara ni 15,000 Mheshimiwa Spika, 15,000 mshahara ambao ni wa mfanyakazi wa ndani ya nyumba, yule ambaye amekaa ndani ya nyumba. Lakini watoto wetu wanarauka asubuhi saa 12, wanatoka saa 4 ya usiku, hawana hata ile mapumziko, kisha wamepewa target. Kwa hiyo tukiangalia kuwa tutoe nafasi za wafanyakazi, tutoe nafasi ya wazee wakistaafu, watoto wetu wapate kazi, lakini pia tuangalie na mazingara ambayo sisi tunawapatia hawa watoto wetu kupata kazi. Je, haki zao za kimsingi zitakuwa zinaangaliwa? Je, marupurupu yao watakuwa wanapata kwa wakati? Je, wale ambao wamestaafu mambo yao yataangaliwa vizuri, Mheshimiwa Spika? Kwa hiyo mimi kama mama Mombasa napenda kupigia pono, nimwambie mheshimiwa ambaye ameleta marekebisho haya kuwa na kupongeza sana, na ni jambo ambalo limenigusa sana, kwa sababu tunajua asilimia karibu 51 ya vijana wetu wa Kenya hawana ajira, na hawa vijana ndio unapata wanaingia katika mambo ya mihadarati, wameingia katika mambo ya pombe. Naona juzi naibu wa rais amejaribu kupigana na mambo ya pombe. Ni kwa sababu hawa watoto wamekaa kule hawana kazi ya kufanya. Lakini wazee utawapata bado wako makazini. Hatukatai wazee kwa kazini, lakini ikifika wakati wa kuondoka wapewe nafasi ya kuondoka tena kwa heshima, waangaliwe kule nyumbani watakapokaa, wapewe marupurupu yao, waangaliwe afya yao, waangaliwe mambo yao mazuri, lakini watoe nafasi kwa watoto wetu ambao ndio vijana. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Usinipimie mahewa.
Muda wako umekwisha, Mama Mombasa. Before I give the next speaker, allow me to recognize our students in the public gallery from Blessed Beyond Primary School, that is Kasarani constituency, Nairobi County. Join me in welcoming them to observe the proceedings of the House. The next chance will go to the member for Chepalungu, Honorable Victor Koech.
Yes, I am hearing, Madam Speaker, someone calling me Mandazi. Indeed, I'm Victor Koech Mandazi, and it's officially in my ID, so no one should fear calling me that name. Thank you, Madam Speaker. While I rise to contribute, I would really want to thank the chairperson who moved this particular bill. It is, and for a very long time, we have had this particular regulation and not having it in law. It's important now as a country that we consider having the 60 years put into law. While we speak about the same, Madam Speaker, in consideration equally is the rate of unemployment for our youth. For a very long time, and particularly to the Teacher Service Commission, that is TSC, within my constituency, there are persons who are now above 45 years. And in particular, Madam Speaker, there is one, Mr. Kiptuya, who teaches in Makimeny Primary School, 45 years, about to go to retirement at 60, and yet, Madam Speaker, he is unemployed. There are such and several cases within our country, and it's about time that we consider this kind of unfairness to our youth, this kind of unfairness to the people who went to school, who went to their colleges, who sacrificed their earnings so that they can take their children and their siblings to school, and yet they have never been employed. Mr. Kiptuya case is trending all over, and as the area member of parliament, I have had a discussion with TSC, and hopefully he is going to be considered in the coming recruitment, because it is sorry for one to be at 45 years, 46 years, and we expect him to work for 15 years to retire. At that particular age, he will not be fruitful, and any other person will not be fruitful. On acting Madam Speaker, for someone to have acted for more than 3 years, normally they are compromised because the appointing authority normally scares them. Their work is normally jeopardized. And Madam Speaker, it is necessary that we now have it at a maximum of 12 months, after which the authorities should be able to advertise for the positions and correctly fill them so that we have persons who are substantial in those particular positions who can be able to deliver without fearing anyone. These cases, Madam Speaker, are so rampant in our counties. You find a CEO who has been acting for more than 4 years. Normally, they fail to deliver eventually because they always fear losing their jobs from the appointing authority. Madam Speaker, once again, I would like to reiterate, and even seeing next to me is the chairperson for education. The issue of our teachers is really scaring. I want to repeat again, Madam Speaker. 45 years of age, Kiptuya from Makimain, yet to be employed. He is to retire officially when we have now this regulation being considered as a law. It is something that we need to look into as a country, and we, the leadership that have been given the powers now, have to find a solution for the same. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I want to support. Thank you.
Thank you. Member for Garissa Township, not in the House. Honorable Kihongi of Kangema.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to support the report for the committee. Madam Speaker, and the bill by Honorable Gadiro. Madam Speaker, I just support the 2 points whereby the issue of retirement age, I think it has been misused a lot, whereby that aspect whereby that says that a person can get an extension after 60 years due to expertise. So many people has misused that provision, and you find there are people who are going up to 65 years, but they mean that they are expertise because they have been they have retained or they have knowledge on the institution. But one thing that the CEOs or the leaders who are in the institution should do is that they should always prepare for succession. I think that's an area that has been misused by the CEOs, by the head of departments, whereby they don't prepare for succession. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I wish we have to make it strict after 60 years that everybody should retire. Madam Speaker, on the issue of acting capacity, it has been misused mostly by the CSs, whereby if they want to control a parastatal, they just make sure the CEO in a parastatal is in acting capacity. You have seen them acting more than 2 years, 3 years, and you find that person is at the mercy of the CS who seconded him or her to that institution as a CEO in acting capacity. I want to support the recommendation by the committee that 6 months that was recommended by Honorable Gadiro might not be enough maybe for recruitment of a CEO, but within 1 year, even if there are litigations, there are chances now of some institution not able to recruit a substantive CEO or staff in that succession to 1 year is enough. Therefore, the recommendation by the committee that we move from 6 months, which was recommended by the mover of the bill, amendment bill, to 12 months, I think that will be extremely enough for even if there are litigations, there are issues, they will have been concluded. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I don't want to belabor on this issue. I wish to support the bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very much. The Honorable George Koimburi, member for Juja.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa nafasi hii ili niweze kuchangia hoja ya bill hii ambayo imeletwa na Mheshimiwa Meja Dong. Nimshukuru sana Mheshimiwa sababu ya kuleta hoja hii muhimu kuhusu watu wakongwe ama wale ambao wamefikisha miaka ya kwenda retire. Mheshimiwa Spika, hii Kenya yetu tuko na shida ya hao watu ambao wamezeeka na miaka yao imefika 60 ya kwenda retire. Mheshimiwa Spika, wakati wamefika miaka 40 huwa tunaona hakuna mwana youth yeyote ambaye amefaidika na experience ambayo iko na yule mzee. Kwa hivyo nachukua nafasi hii kupongeza Meja Dong kwa kuleta hoja hii muhimu. Mwana youth yeyote ambaye ameajiriwa, yule mzee akifika miaka 40 aweze kuchukua nafasi pia ya kumfundisha, ndiye aweze kupata kujua ama kuelewa ile kazi ambayo huyu mzee amekuwa akiifanya. Mheshimiwa Spika, kama vile tunavyojua ni kwamba wale wazee ambao wameenda retire wamekuwa na shida kubwa pale mashinani. Ukweli ni kwamba hawapati pesa zao, ile fidia ambayo yafaa walipwe baada ya kulitaya. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, tunaomba serikali yetu ichukue wazee hawa ili wawe wakipewa pesa zao kwa wakati ambao unafaa. Wakati huyu mtu amezeeka na amepewa retire, ndio mwili wake huwa unaanza kumsumbua. Kwa hivyo unapata anahitaji madawa, anahitaji kuvaa vizuri, anahitaji hata chakula cha kuweza kumpea nguvu ya kuweza kuendelea na maisha yake. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi ningesema hivi, wale vijana ambao wamechukua nafasi wakati wanafundishwa na huyu mzee akifikisha miaka 40, pia huyu mzee aweze kuongezewa pesa zake, isiwe tu ni zile pesa ambazo alianza nazo kazi wakati aliajiriwa akiwa kijana. Mheshimiwa Spika, hili jambo ni jambo la muhimu na lafaa lizingatiwe na serikali yetu tukufu. Kwa hivyo tumpongeza mheshimiwa wetu kwa kuleta jambo hili, Mheshimiwa Meja Dong. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Asante sana. The Honorable Andrew Okwome, member for Karachonyo. In the absence of the Honorable member for Karachonyo, the Honorable Moses Ijendi, member for Malava.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I strongly support this bill. Personally, I've been a victim of acting. My former employer, Madam Speaker, kept me in an acting position for 6 years. 6 years. Madam Speaker, for confirmation in the appointment, what struck me most was that I was also subjected to an interview finally. Even when I was sitting before this interview, I was just wondering, for all these 6 years, can I still be subjected to an interview? Luckily, Madam Speaker, I emerged top to be confirmed in appointment. Madam Speaker, we also have an experience in this House, Parliamentary Service Commission. We have the current CEO of NGCDF board. Madam Speaker, he acted, I think, for 9 years. And when an interview was called, I remember it was this House that overturned a decision that had made another person to be number 1, to take over from him, after acting for 9 years and performing so excellently as he had done. So, Madam Speaker, I strongly support this because it is so dehumanizing that you put someone in an acting position for over 6 months. Then finally, for some cases, you don't confirm them in appointment, and other persons come to replace them, and these persons that deputizing these particular persons, training them even on the job, Madam Speaker, it is so demoralizing, so dehumanizing, that even for fellow staff, it in itself, Madam Speaker, defeatist. Madam Speaker, I would like not to agree with the Mheshimiwa's proposal in clause 2, which proposes an amendment of section 34 of the Act that says any officer appointed in an acting capacity shall not be entitled to any acting allowance after the expiry of 6 months. Madam Speaker, personally, I would say no person should be allowed to continue acting in a position after 6 months. Madam Speaker, imagine a scenario where someone is put in a position, he has been earning an allowance for acting in that position for 6 months. You retain the person in the same position and you don't pay him an allowance. Madam Speaker, this will be a window for corruption in that particular organization, in that particular system. Madam Speaker, the other point maybe I may want to look at is the issue of 60 years. Madam Speaker, when you look at this country, particularly Kenya, where we are, persons who are the age of 18 and 35, there are so many. When you add on the age of 45, Madam Speaker, it's almost 80%. Why allow a person to continue working after 60 years? Why can't we let this person retire, pay him retirement, pensions, that when he still has the energy now, because most of these persons, some of them, have not been working from homes. They've been staying away from homes, from families for a very long time, for very long hours. Give him time when he's still strong to jail with the family, to know even the house looks like after working for 60 years. Madam Speaker, what is so interesting with this practice is that the issue of retirement was actually left to an entity, a person, the CS, so to say. And this is a person who can make any decision, any time that suits that particular person at that particular, in that particular situation. So if this becomes now an act, Madam Speaker, I would say that the issue of a person being retained in a position because he has a special talent should arise. Because we ask ourselves, when this person was in this position, maybe for even 20 years or 15 years, what was he doing? And what was the management doing to ensure that there is smooth transition from one level to another level? Madam Speaker, I've also found out that when it comes to this acting, this idea of the age.
Sorry to interrupt you. There seems to be a very serious Kamukunji, a discussion where the Honorable Koimburi is. Please, you may reduce. Please reduce your voices. Consult in lower tones, so that we are able to hear what the Honorable Member for Malava is saying.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker.
Please proceed.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. What I've also found with most officers and most organizations, they put persons in particular positions so that these persons cannot actually be suitable when it comes to a promotion, so that this person cannot be suitable to replace them after their age has reached 60. So, Madam Speaker, we must ensure that as much as we are putting there this age retirement law, we also must ensure that when persons, all organizations have systems that ensure that when a person, for example, is deputizing a particular person, this particular person, before confirmation or appointment in this particular position, actually has the requisite positions to be in that position and also even rise up to the other level without necessarily what we are going through in this particular country. My brother was citing TSC. Yeah, there's a small challenge with the TSC that some of the persons who are acting in positions of deputies, because of the new requirement on promotions, some of them is very interesting. They are acting a position of a deputy, a position of a principal, but actually, even when it comes to promotion itself, this particular person cannot qualify to be principal. So this law will help actually to guide even TSC, to guide in terms of training, so that there is seamless flow of personnel in this country to ensure effective delivery of service. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I support.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Charles Ngusia, member for Mwingi West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this chance to add my voice on this bill on Public Service Commission Amendment Bill brought by Benjamin Mwangi. And from the onset, let me just say thank you and appreciation to this Member of Parliament for bringing up this bill on the floor of the House. Madam Speaker, I always believe that you should stay young at heart, kind in spirit, and enjoy retirement, living happily, Madam Speaker. From the onset, I support retirement age of 60 years. If you look at all the countries, the developed ones actually, Madam Speaker, they have set their retirement age between age 60 to 50 years and to 65 years. And I think I am fully in support, because most of the time I have been quite disappointed seeing people who are even over 70 in public offices doing a lot of work. Their minds are tired, their bodies are tired, and young and energetic people are still loitering in the streets looking for employment, Madam Speaker. So this actually should be supported by everybody, because the bill itself, it's going to bring discipline in management of human resources in public sector, Madam Speaker. The other issue, of course, which has really been raised up in the audit committees, I'm lucky to be in one of the audit committees, has been the issue of person acting for too long. And one case has been the member of the NGCDM board who has acted for 9 years, Madam Speaker. That person cannot effectively discharge the duties if you have been kept on waiting to be confirmed. So by doing so, we are going to ensure we have got a proper succession plan in terms of bringing this sanity, in terms of the number of months you are supposed to act, Madam Speaker. So many civil servants, Madam Speaker, most of them, they end up acting and even getting remuneration. But I would like to beseech the Member of Parliament actually to bring this amendment where he has said failure to comply with this provision will result in the officer not earning any acting allowances. What if the person is still serving and the person does not have capacity or authority to appoint him or herself automatically to this position, Madam Speaker? I wish we can say the person should be deemed to have been permanently employed if he or she has been acting for more than 6 months, and Madam Speaker. So that thing is needs to be looked at, Madam Speaker. Nothing much to labor on it. I support the 60 years retirement, and let's not look only the jobs. Actually, even the president's appointment should be anchored on this, and anybody who has attended this and should just go home and live peacefully and rest. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable David Gekaria, member for Nakuru Town East.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to air my sentiment on this very important amendment which has been brought by our brother, Major Dong. Honorable Speaker, much as we talk about the retirement age at the age of 60, it's also important for us to be cognizant that the public service only employs a very small percentage of the unemployed labor in this country. And as we try to solve this problem of public service, the private sector also, Madam Speaker, which takes the lion's share of employment, we also need, much as Parliament, we need to think now beyond the public service and also be able to legislate on how we should also handle employees who are working in the private sector. And I'm saying this, Honorable Speaker, because looking at what has been proposed, Honorable Speaker, for a worker to be able to attain up to the age of 60, assuming he was employed at the age of 20, a record 40 years. We hear other employees talking about, have been worked in this institution for the last 35 or something. I think it is recommendable. But Honorable Speaker, also at that age, a person ought to have been able to organize themselves. What happens normally for people when they are told to go and retire and they don't want to go, or they are seeking or asking for extension, is because they have not prepared themselves for retirement. And I think it is important for us also as a committee, as we think about, talking about at what time do you leave your employment, we should also be in a position, whether legally or by law or some legislation, to prepare these employees when they are going for retirement. At the age of 60, Honorable Speaker, it is a little bit old. And it is also for us to think. I don't know what other countries and other jurisdictions do, but I want to believe that if somebody has worked for the last 30 years, at the age, a retirement age of around 55, as it is when you want to get your NSSF retirement, at the age of 55, so that at least we can vacate more positions for the young people to be able. Of course, vacating at the age of 60 will leave a few vacancies for the young generation that is seeking. But I will be proposing a further amendment to reduce it to 55 and be able to see whether we can create more employment for the young generation. Secondly, about the 12 months in acting capacity. Honorable Speaker, 12 months, the proposal by Major Dong, I think the committee should have stuck with the 6 months. Honorable Speaker, an institution must always prepare itself for transition. So we shouldn't be talking about 12 months so that an institution can be able to prepare recruitment and whatever. I mean, what stops the institution from starting a replacement recruitment maybe 12 months before I retire? So I think, again, it is important for us to think critically about the 12 months and be able to leave it at the 6 months so that somebody is assured whether they will proceed or not proceed in the acting capacities that they will be acting. Honorable Speaker, the preparation, and this goes to most of us, particularly the male employee. Honorable Speaker, when I retire at the age of 60, given a small package, that is when now I start looking for a young girl who will be going to rest with me after the 60 years. And this is where the problem starts. That this young girl, when she comes into your life, I will think that she is so much interested in me, but what she is interested is what I have. And as soon as that is finished, then, and I think that is where we are saying that we need to have a program.
I see an intervention by the Honorable Jackson Kosgei, nominated member. Is it an intervention?
He's not
on this subject matter?
He's absent, actually.
Well, you may proceed, Honorable Gikari.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I was saying that it is important for us to be able to prepare the retiree, that as they are leaving their employment, we will be able to. And secondly, also, Madam Speaker, it is important, once the institution knows that a certain senior person will be leaving in the next 12 months, then again it is important, because I doubt whether there is any institution that has no deputy. That deputy should be, aligned to the processes of how the continuity of that institution, even after as we also, because again, we have deputies who have been in acting capacities for a very long time, and it also brings a lot of issues. Honorable Speaker, and I totally agree with Madam Zamzam from Mombasa. it is important for us also to look, as I was saying about the private sector. Honorable Speaker, we passed a private sectors, it's an act of parliament now. And we even pegged how much the private security are supposed to be paid. Honorable Speaker, it is very, very shocking that as we are talking, or we are speaking now, with the act in place, the private sector guards are still being paid the mean mega 7,000 per month when his employer is asking maybe for 35. I think it is important for the institutions which have been bestowed upon this for purposes of operationalization of this act to be able to look that actually these private guards are paid what we had agreed. Honorable Speaker, it is not right for me or any employer to ask for 35,000 and continue paying private guard only some 5,000 without consideration. Honorable Speaker, this is key, that retirement is, yes, as we talk about retirement in this act as proposed by Major Dong, I think it is a way that we need to think and think critically on how we'll be assisting our employees. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support with an intention of bringing a further amendment on the retirement age. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Gikaria. The Honorable Fabian Moli, member for Kangundo. Honorable Fabian, I think that mic is not working. Kindly move to another mic. Please provide him with another mic.
Thank you very much, Madam Honorable Speaker, for giving me my chance to add my voice on this bill. It is true, indeed, this bill came to our committee. And also not forgetting to thank Honorable Major Dong and my members, our colleagues in the same committee with Secretariat, for all the work they did for this bill. Madam Speaker, when this bill came to our committee, the first thing, there was a lot of crossfire on this retirement age. And we have come to realize that the 60 years for retirement of Kenyans is very important. As we had some submissions, some people proposing that, as also I've heard honorable members say that we should come the age retirement to be 55 years. Others were saying 57. Others were coming with 65 years, leaving the case of disability for 65 years. The 55 years which went to crossfire in the reduced station, like especially the teachers, parastatals, there was a lot of argument that many members of society, they have taken the loan basing that their retirement age is 60 years. You have a mortgage which you are looking, you retire at the age of 60 years. You have a car loan, you are looking to retire at 60 years. So we came to found that if we go less these years, we are going to disadvantage many civil servants. So I put also clear that it is not this committee which has put it to 60 years. It was like that before. Before the legislature says that the retirement age was 60 years. It's only that we have now make it to be a act of law. So before was operating through the legislature that the 60 years to be retirement end, but assembly to come to 65 years. So the committee has not come up with a new retirement age. Honorable Major Dong, he just brought it to the act which was in legislation. Also, the second issue through many submission was about the acting. If you see within the fraternity of public sector in Kenya, there are many people who are acting. They are acting up to 4 years, they are acting up to 5 years. But when we did a lot of public participation and the interaction with many officers, that there was no factual fact for somebody to act more than 2 years. So that's why we found that if given the chance, the public sector, they are able to advertise the job and vet and employ within 1 year. So that's why we came to say that the 12 months is enough to recruit our officer to run in that office. So now this bill is chairing the issue of acting more than 1 year. Even now existing many director general in this country, almost all of them, they're acting without any factual fact or any law which is not giving the time We came to find that because the law is not giving the certain or the time which you can act, the time or maybe the requirement period which you can act, that's where there is that loophole. So this law has steward that, that lacuna that the people can act more than 2 years. Honorable Speaker, the other submission which came with that, there have been special manpower which maybe you get them at the age of 60 years, 75 years, they are still working in public sector in this country, expert like scientists, people working in investigation of aviation, they are still working at age of 70 years. There are also specialized doctors which are also working above 60 years. It is true, there are submission that these people, they can still come in as a consultant. They can still be taken as consultant in that field, especially now many doctors, they are coming in consultant. Aviation, we found that aviation industry, many they work still as employees, but they can still work as consultant. So that thing of making specialized manpower to work for long, this bill is still chewing. The other fact is that the argument which maturity age of the country, if you see right now, many students in grade 6 in Kenya, they are in secondary school. So the pupil who are supposed to be standard 7, now they are in junior secondary. It means that somebody, because I've gone to secondary school, there is maturity in age and maturity growth. So there is a future thinking that if we keep on the age of 60 years, we are going to disadvantage the future youth because people are maturing at younger age. But still, despite the exact argument, still the government is giving the ID at the age of 18 years. Even if you mature, they still the issue of registration, a issue to be recognized as maturity is still at 18 years. So, Madam Speaker, with those few facts, I support the hack and also I support the submission by our committee. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Mary Emase, member for Teso South.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I also wish to add my voice to this debate on this bill by Honorable Major Daw. Honorable Speaker, the issue of unemployment in Kenya is very serious. Statistics have it that 5.5%, according to the 2022 statistics, the rate of unemployment is at 5.5%. And statistics also have it that every year, an average of 50,000 graduates from universities are released into the job market. That is according to the Commission for Higher Education. And that does not include those that graduate from the middle-level colleges. So all these graduates expected to transit into job opportunities or positions. And I think the questions we should be asking ourselves, all of us, where shall we get these jobs if we continue to retain retired officers? Where shall we get these jobs if officers ask forever? They are acting forever without acting within a certain stipulated or defined period of time. Where are we going to get these jobs? If even those who are lost through natural attrition are not being replaced. Honorable Speaker, we've been receiving MDAs and ministries who are telling us they have an aging population that is almost retiring the entire office, yet there are no replacements. So we even have an issue with replacing those who have left office, either as a result of retirement age, or accident, or death, or in whichever manner. So there is a delay. Why are we delaying? And I want to support the position by one of the members that advertisement for recruitment to replace those who are leaving should be done 12 months to the period the other persons are retiring, because the establishment is there, the allocation is there. Why should that be delayed? Honorable Speaker, I think as a country we must plan for the future generation on how these graduates need to be absorbed as they finish colleges or university. And at this juncture, I want to thank and appreciate the President for the effort he's putting, even getting out of this country, visiting other nations outside in the world, to seek for employment opportunities for our young people in this country. And I want to urge all the nurses out there, apply for the positions for the 2,000 nurses that are needed. And also I want to, at this juncture again, to thank the President for prioritizing programs that are going to generate additional opportunities, job opportunities for our youths in the country, including the housing programs and the EPZs that we are actually pushing as a country. But, Madam Speaker, above all, we must also concern ourselves and ask whether our colleges are preparing the young graduates to match the existing and available opportunities in the world or in the job market. So, Madam Speaker, I support this bill by Honorable Major Dong that there must be compulsory retirement after 60 years so that we create opportunities for others. That there must be penalties for those who are authorities that are not complying with the provisions of this legislation. And that there should be expiry of acting in acting capacity. So, Honorable Speaker, I support. And again, I want to congratulate Honorable Major Dong. Thank you.
Well, in the absence of the Honorable Andrew Okwome and the Honorable Julius Meli, member for Tinderet, I now give the opportunity to the Honorable Nabwera Nabi, member for Lungari.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First, I want to raise to support this bill. Madam Speaker, I want to thank Mheshimiwa Benjamin for coming up with this amendment. Madam Speaker, as a HR practitioner, one of the things I found very unacceptable in the Kenyan public service is where we have casualized jobs, permanent and pensionable jobs. We have casualized them through acting appointment. Madam Speaker, a public service is a going concern. A public service is an entity of entirety. And Madam Speaker, in a country where you have excess labor, and not just labor, qualified labor, in a country where the public service should be setting standards for the private sector, it raises a lot of concern that we have key positions that remain in acting capacity for many, many years. Madam Speaker, you've heard what Honorable Malulu has shared with you, what befell him for 6 years. Madam Speaker, as I'm speaking to you here, a university in this country, which was almost, a university college which was almost going under, and a deputy vice chancellor was appointed to act, and he has acted effectively and brought that university to life. There has even been an attempt now to remove him and bring somebody who has been serving under him. That is what acting appointment can do. Madam Speaker, in this country, we have moved away from the tenets of code of conduct of the public service that requires one is appointed in acting capacity to assess his suitability, to assess his fit to the job, to now using it as a carrot by those who wield power. We have very sensitive positions, Madam Speaker, in the public service. A director is the engine of delivery. And if you are to look around in the public service in this country, as I was checking this morning, 109 positions, people are in acting capacity. Some as long as 2 years, some as long as 3 years. So the question is, why do we pay an institution called Public Service Commission, which is supposed to be employing public servants? The reason, Madam Speaker, people hang around after attaining 60 years are two. Number one, as a country, we have not done well in terms of pension for people who retire. The time we pay them, especially in the public service, and the quantum. So basically, given that these are the people in authority, they will want to perpetuate themselves in offices by always saying there is nobody ready to take over the job. As we deal with this issue, we need to revisit the Pensions Act. We need to look at the people who retire. What happens to them? We need to improve health care. We must think through, in the new scheme of things, how somebody who has served this country for so many years